Hi, I'm Kelly. I write and publish fiction as Kaylin Worth. This is my first video entry on the website, and it's decidedly low-tech, but I think that's going to be all right. The reason I decided to use video for this posting is because of the subject matter, and today I raise the question, who does not like to read? Now, as a child, I loved reading. I had some health problems and I was indoors a lot, couldn't necessarily be out running around with the other kids, and so books were really important to me. They were the foundation for my childhood imagination, and they were my companions in many ways. Now, I did have real friends. I'm not trying to get you to feel sorry for me, because I had a good childhood, but the books were a big deal. I would read storybooks, I would read encyclopedias. I actually learned to read in Southeast Texas at Sour Lake Elementary School. And the books that we learned from, and maybe you had these as well, the first I think was called Tip, and that was after the dog, who was the main character. And then the second book, if I remember correctly, was Tip and Mitten. So it was the dog and his feline associate. Those were fun books. I enjoyed those. I had other childhood favorites. There was, well, of course, Dr. Seuss. Everybody loved Dr. Seuss, and I coveted other kids' collections of Dr. Seuss. I loved Beverly Cleary, and her book, The Mouse and the Motorcycle, was one of my all-time favorites, and it did foreshadow what a nut I am about motorcycles, even today. When I was 7 years old, my parents gave me a white leather King James version of the Bible, which was difficult for me, but it did prepare me to someday plow through Shakespeare and Chaucer, so I appreciate that. I think it was a real benefit to me in some ways that I learned to read and depend on reading so young. It's interesting though, because even as early as first grade, I realized that there were a lot of kids who didn't enjoy reading. I would see them having these excruciating experiences in the classroom when the teacher would say, "Get up and read" in front of everyone. They'd blush and they'd stammer, and I could just see them almost shrink, and it was as if they decided that they just weren't smart. And of course there was a teasing. We all did it. We all felt it. But I think those kids, it was tough. Now see, those kids, they could run circles around me outside. They could pummel me with those big red playground balls. They were strong and fast, and some of them could calculate math in their heads, some of them could sing. They had all these talents, but reading was really rough for them. They usually avoided the library where I tended to live, unless they were under duress. And even as a child, I found myself wondering, who doesn't like to read? So I think confusion, shame, what we now call learning disabilities, but probably didn't even recognize at that point, and simply ornery teachers, I think, ruined reading for a lot of now grown children. I recall another experience in 6th grade, and by this time I was living in Colorado, which is, I suppose, where I lost my Texas drawl. I remember us all facing the white projection screen, and the text flashed, you know, just zap, 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 one sentence after another. It was there, it was gone, and here we were just 10, 11 years old, and we were already being told that it was the most important thing that we read really fast, even if we didn't understand it as well. I strained to keep up. I was kind of an anxious, wanted to do everything perfect kid, so I hung in there, but I really envied those kids who had the pride and the sense to slam down their pencils and not even try to remember what they had skimmed. I still read too fast. I catch myself speeding through and I have to go back. I encourage myself to stop and savor the words. So again, we come back to the question, who doesn't like to read? And you know, as a writer with other writers, I think we want to believe that everyone loves to read because that makes us feel essential, but actually I know several people who avoid books, and not just things I've written. So I think that it's not an unusual problem. Like other writers, I sometimes imagine myself writing something that would captivate thousands, even millions of readers, you know, write that bestseller. But deep inside, I think that kind of in the same sense as the Good Shepherd in the parable, I would really like to be the writer who could capture that one lost reader. So if that's you, here are some thoughts. No matter how difficult or alienating your reading experiences have been as a child or as an adult, I want you to remember that there are stories in the world for you. Reading is not a test, it's a matter of taste. And don't feel badly that you didn't enjoy those things that your high school literature teacher was trying to get you to like, because actually a lot of people find them dull. There's so much out there. If you liked comic books as a kid, for example, a new literary form that's just taking off that really fascinates me too is graphic novels. They're becoming very common. They're extremely well done in a lot of cases. I encourage you to go into a bookstore and look for your interests, browse. You know, if you live in the literary hinterlands, as I do, you know, you could even go online and look, although I do believe it's best if we support our local bookstores. But, you know, the internet's good, and it can expose you to a variety, and sometimes you can even download samples. If you suspect that you have dyslexia or some other reading challenge that you're dealing with, ask for help, either at school or in adult education programs, and maybe that would help. Then, even when you're not reading, teach yourself to listen to the stories around you. People are talking constantly. They're telling stories. Some people are really very good at it. I think in some ways better than I am. I've had to work at storytelling. But, you know, on the bus, at the corner cafe, listen to people and think about which stories intrigue you and which elements make a story interesting for you. Go to a movie and then find the book and read it and see which one you liked better. That's kind of a fun comparative thing. There's a world full of stories for you to enjoy. And the best part is nobody is going to grade you or giggle or scowl if you struggle over a word. Because here's the point. It's your story. Now go live it. Thanks for hearing me out. You can find more of my words at www.kaylinworth.com. Thanks for listening. I hope you'll leave some comments. I'd love to hear what you think about reading.